Greetings and welcome to the weekly edition of the Safe Crypto Show. I am your host, Tyler Jordan, with co-hosts Mike and Jason. Each episode attempts to cover a range of topics, beginning with a global market cap review and a look at the past week's movers and shakers. Next, a discussion of general crypto news and happenings. Then we consider new and interesting projects and ICOs, all followed by a brief discussion of the weekly tech update by MAIDSAFE. Let's get started with the show. Safe Crypto Show disclaimer. Please keep in mind at all times that we, the hosts and guests of the Safe Crypto Show, are not offering or giving investment advice. We only state our personal opinions and thoughts on our own interests. By watching, you agree to not hold us responsible for any losses you may incur by executing trades or by maintaining holds based upon the subjects discussed in our episodes. It is Friday, the 20th of April, 2018. Today I'm joined by my co-host Mike, so let's begin. Welcome, Mike. Thanks for joining the show today.
Glad to be here for another week.
So as usual, we're going to start with the market cap, but let's just have a look at the top 10 here real quick. We haven't done that in a while. Bitcoin Cash up almost 12%. Ripple up 20%, nearly. Ethereum up 10. Bitcoin up 2.4. Things are flying today. We've had a really awesome week.
That we have. We were at about 325 last week, as I recall. Let's see where we were, 308 last week at this time.
Global market cap.
Gradual upswing past
We've had
several days for sure.
I'm looking at the log scale on my chart here, but yeah, all the way up to 364. We've had a huge influx of cash. There's been a fair bit of good news really over the past month. There's kind of been an accumulation of good news, and I think it's slowly starting to hit. Plus, we're getting past the tax time in the U.S., and I reckon that people are kind of figuring out they got their finances sorted now, and they're looking at what they're going to do with their capital, and I think some of that's coming into the crypto market. It's my guess, anyway.
Notice the BTC dominance has dropped from just over 40 that it was last week to 38.6 at this week's.
That's pretty big.
So that's a good adjustment for the alt currencies, anyways.
Yep.
So we got that
for all the projects happening out there, I support that. I'm not a big investor into coins that are just coins. And Bitcoin and Litecoin, they're good for trading, I suppose, but it's like they're store value sort of things instead of actual investments. And I want the money that I have to be working for something, not just to be sitting there as in a vault. I mean, it's the same thing with you buy gold or silver. It just sits there. It's not actually taking part in the economy anymore. And to me, I think that's really bad, honestly. If it's not part of the economy, it's not helping humanity progress. It's just sitting in some vault gathering dust. And that's typically what I think of Bitcoin and Litecoin. It's not that I don't hold a tiny bit, but I do it for trading purposes. I'm going to be converting this into that or whatever. And Bitcoin and Litecoin and these sorts, Ethereum. Well, Ethereum has other use cases, so Ethereum's not quite in the same arena there as Bitcoin. But yeah. Anyway. Let's go on.
For the transactions.
That's right.
Get you from one to another. They make great grease.
That's it. So, right. Blocktivity, what do we got going on there? I think it's pretty much the same this week. Although, interestingly, Ethereum has moved up into the number 2 slot. I think BitShares had been up there, but Ethereum's moved up. It is now the second most used blockchain as of this week. Still same max capacity, 20,800 unconfirmed transactions.
That's up a lot from last week. It was around 8,000 last week.
Yeah, it does jump up and down. I think this is probably because of the increased activity this week. People are buying into the altcoins, and a lot of altcoins are Ethereum-based tokens, so they're in there buying those, and that's really kicking things up. I guess good for those who are earning gas fees on the Ethereum blockchain. Good news for them. Yeah, I don't see any other major changes here. Interesting, though, that Ethereum, I guess that move up from number 3 to number 2 of Ethereum there is probably due to again, the increased activity of the Ethereum blockchain. So I guess let's move on to the news. We don't have any real big news this week, so we're going to go over some just general, a little bit more headlines, I suppose, as opposed to in-depth discussion. So the first one we've got is just kind of a group of news on exchanges. So first we have world's fourth largest crypto exchange, Huobi, expands to London as entry point to EU market. So not much to say there. Beijing-born crypto exchange Huobi has announced it's planning to open an office in London as it continues its expansion overseas. Next, we've got major South Korean crypto exchange Coin1 to launch in Indonesia. South Korea's third largest cryptocurrency exchange, Coin1, has announced plans to launch an exchange in Indonesia, according to a press release published on its site Monday. After that, crypto exchange Kraken to end services in Japan cites rising costs of business. So that's interesting. So we had two are expanding, one's contracting a bit, although they do say that they are leaving the door open. They might come back to Japan later on. Next, we've got Litecoin courting TenX and Corbit just a month after the LitePay breakup. That's interesting. I know, Mike, you're really keen on TenX.
I definitely like the project that they've got, where they can go and have a lot of different ERC20 tokens and whatnot, depending on how many they have at the moment. But being able to use a debit card that's loaded with crypto is a major ease of use, quality of life adjustment for the better. For
TenX is they're a Visa system. Can you what's that? What do they do exactly?
They've had some issues with their card provider, and now they're looking to go and have their own, basically issue their own cards so that they don't have to worry about having their provider have issues like they have had.
So they're like
yeah.
They're like Monaco or some of these others that are hooking a credit card or Visa or something up to crypto.
There's
Is that right?
several others. There's like WireX is one, Monaco is one, and there's some others that are less well known that are a little older and stuff. And as far as for the 10X, they've had some issues with their card supplier.
Yeah, I think a lot of them have. That's a very common problem now because of EU regulations or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what is causing all these issues, but one of the things that 10X is planning on going and doing is to go and become their own supplier so that they are able to go and issue the cards themselves, or the card issuer.
All right, so getting a banking license or something.
Yeah, that's one of their that's one of their things that they're planning on going and doing from their white paper. And
I feel like we're doing an infomercial for 10X.
It's not meant to be that way. We do go and announce when we have financial interests in that sort of thing, and that's me going and being straight up with people that I have an investment in that.
You do hold some 10X, yeah. Yeah, I don't, but
I'm really impressed with their white paper and what they're trying to do. And for me, the amount of difficulty that I have converting from fiat to crypto and back makes something like what 10X and Monaco, are trying to do, makes that, much, much more interesting. And I just, I have a preference for the 10X platform over the Monaco platform. Both of them are very interesting to me, and I think both of them have better projects than some of the existing ones. And you'll have to take a look and do your research for yourself to see if there's something there that is interesting to you as well. Again, this is not advice. I'm just stating my particular opinions, and your mileage may vary, et cetera, et cetera.
10X is up like 20% or some today, isn't it? It's had a big kick up.
Yeah.
Probably because of this news.
It's possible that the news.
Sure where they are here. They're down here.
It's up 20%. It's at number 94 on the chart at $1.50 a piece at the moment.
Go to the bottom there.
It's down from what it was, back in the heyday of January, but it's making its way back. It's been pretty stable above $1, and it's it's hanging on around the bottom of the top 100 at the moment. But I have a feeling that once their network is up and running, that they're planning on doing, which is essentially an exchange that will instantly convert from one to another. Once they get that up and running and get a lot of coins added to that, I think it's going to be a really amazing program. So.
Well, I hope so. I'd like to see one of these guys get a good card attached. That would be nice.
Yeah, I definitely am looking forward to when they release their card in America here.
I'm interested in Monaco too. I'd like to know more about what they're doing, but I think they've got the same problems as TenX.
Yeah, it's going to be an issue until most of the people are able to issue their own cards and get them, get the deals hammered out with, Visa, MasterCard, whichever version they're using. And, once they get that so that it'll work on the Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, Basic, all the credit cards all work on roughly the same systems. And once they get those taken care of, then I think it's going to be, much appreciated by the crypto communities and stuff.
Yeah, I reckon. Okay, let's see what we got next here. German stock exchange subsidiary to release crypto trading app. I guess this is kind of akin to the American platform Robinhood, which does historically has been tied to standard stock markets where you could trade shares. Now Robinhood has released their crypto trading app, so now this German stock exchange subsidiary has released their crypto trading app. SOA Labs, a subsidiary of Germany's second largest stock exchange, Börse Stuttgart, will release a cryptocurrency trading app later this year, according to the app's website. The app, called Bison, will be available in September. That's a fair ways out. And will initially support trading in Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and XRP. The website states that more assets will be included in the future. Bison also claims they will charge no trading fees, same as Robinhood. The app will be available in German and later in English. So overall, we can say there's a fair bit of activity in the exchange space. They're expanding out tentatively for the most part. Kraken's contracting a tiny bit, but
well, there's other options for the people in Japan. So
yeah, well, there's quite a few exchanges in Japan. Japan and Australia are two of the top countries for crypto now, with friendly regulations. So our next article, local Bitcoins user claims traders must submit ID for significant volumes. Reddit reacts. Yes, well, I'm not surprised. I mean, that there probably been had a lot of pressure on them from the different governments to do something, because there's a lot of black market trading going on, and most of it, I reckon, is going through local Bitcoins. I use local Bitcoins when I want to sell some crypto or to buy some crypto. I think for me, it's one of the easiest ways until we have a Visa card attached to them we can use effectively. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I tend to like it. It works for me. I haven't been trading large volumes. I'm a pretty steadfast hodler, so just sit and enjoy the ride. But, I guess this is a bit concerning, though, if this becomes a serious issue. But what's already happening here is there are alternative markets, alternatives to local Bitcoins that are springing up, that have sprung up over many years, actually, but there will be more if this sort of trend continues with regulation.
Yeah, I have a certain mindset that, where there is that KYC AML, know your customer, anti-money laundering, the AML rules and stuff. That's, a lot of people would consider that very intrusive. That the governments of the world that agree that this is a important thing, other people value their privacy, and they don't think that the government needs to know about these sorts of things. So I have no doubt in my mind that, much like other websites that deal with, we'll say regulation avoidance, I have no doubt in my mind that those will come about for cryptos as well. So
I have a feeling that, banks have been complying with the KYC AML laws for ages, long periods of time, and going way back, really. I think that those regulations have been stepped up since 9/11, and but there's also, I think, the levels that trigger for those regulations. Like there are certain trading levels that will trigger it, and those levels have been more and more triggered by the average person because of inflation, because fiat is losing its value, because crypto is going up in value, and so more and more people are getting triggered into that, and it's something to watch out for, I think, as we move on, because those regulations just have a set amount in fiat, and they're not adjusted for inflation, they're not adjusted for probably anything. So I think going into the future, we're going to see more and more people hitting those limits and running into government, red tape.
Yeah, you mentioned taxes earlier in the program, and in the United States anyways, we have what's called the AMT, or alternative minimum tax, and even the people who make and what is for the Americans an average income, you have to go and figure your alternative minimum tax as well, because it will likely affect you, and it hasn't been adjusted for inflation for decades, and
It's just insane.
It's anybody who knows anything about the money supply in the past 20 to 30 years knows that any amount of money that you had a set amount of 30 years ago is pittance by comparison to the inflation that's happened since then.
Yeah.
And it's only a
price inflation
products. Yeah, it's only a handful of different products that have not shown dramatic inflation, and it's stuff that if it was to inflate at the same rate as everything else, you'd have people screaming from the streets, so but they manage that as best as they can, I suppose, to try and keep things from going completely berserk. But we can see the stress fractures.
Yes, there's a lot of stress. People are under a lot of stress, I know. So our next article, crypto hedge fund Pantera Capital, Bitcoin will highly likely break 20,000 this year. So there's been a fair few of these kind of announcements where people are kind of, predicting the future price of Bitcoin. Pantera Capital Management, a hedge fund with a focus on cryptocurrencies, said in their April newsletter that Bitcoin's price of 6,500 was probably the low for cryptocurrency, and that it was highly likely that Bitcoin's price will reach above $20,000 this year. The Wall Street Journal reported on Friday, April the 13th.
Yeah, for me, the price, the 20,000 price that it hit in January was, that was not surprising, to me. And, the only thing that I'm really surprised at is how far it went down before it finally stayed turned around, and, it's on its way back up to a certain degree. But we're seeing the same thing that happened back at the end of November, beginning of December of last year, which is the Bitcoin dominance. We're seeing that turning around. And if you go and you look at the charts on percentage of total market capitalization from, the global charts on crypto, on the coin market cap, you can click on that Bitcoin dominance and you get a chart. And you can see, Bitcoin's nice yellow bars. And then if you go and you look, the Bitcoin dominance around the end of November, it was up at a peak on December the 7th of approximately, 62%. And then it went down until it got to about 32% in the middle of January at the peak of the market. And then as the market started plummeting, the Bitcoin dominance went back up, peaking at 45. And it's just like a roller coaster ride. The initial hill is as high as it's going to get. And if you look at the chart, it looks like a roller coaster ride. And
I'm trying to open the chart, but my internet connection is really slow today for some reason, so might be loading.
As far as for this, it's on its way back down. And I think when you see the large jumps and the ongoing rising of the market cap, I feel that that's a lot of the money going back into the altcoins. And there's a magnified response as money goes through Bitcoin and goes into, because Bitcoin and Ethereum are the two primary points of entry to get into the altcoins. And you generally are going to go through one of those two. So, since they cost so much to go and get, when people go and get their Bitcoins or they get their Ethereums, they go and they convert those into the altcoins that they're really looking to go and get. And those have a magnified response since they are much cheaper than the average Bitcoin or Ethereum, which are some of the highest priced on the market. So,
Yep, it's interesting. See how this plays out. I hear that Tim Draper, he's a pretty renowned investor, and he's also in the crypto sphere, investing in things. And he's predicted that Bitcoin will hit, I think, a quarter million, 250,000 by 2022. So there's some pretty
a ways from now. So.
Yeah, it is. There's some pretty good optimism out there. I think that just seems a bit. I mean, there's no way you can really predict the price out that long, in my opinion. But
well, all you can do really is
the hype can certainly drive the price.
Yeah. Well, if you extrapolate out the market cap and you go from where we're at now and you multiply by 10, that gives us a $3.6 trillion market cap and a Bitcoin price of 83,000. That's just doing a simple 10, multiply by 10. And that's 3.6 trillion market cap. That's not a whole lot when you consider the total market cap of the world's money supply. That's still a drop in the bucket, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
It's a rather big drop,
Yep.
One of those big fat Kansas rain drops and stuff that we would get this time of year if it wasn't so cold. But as far as for, the market cap, I go and I look at the potential for it to do, 1 trillion, 2 trillion, 3 trillion. I'd be interested to see where we're going to be come December, but I don't think we're going to be down this low ever again. I just don't see it, because the more press, the more people know about it. The more people know about it, the more people get involved with it, and especially if people see it as the most profitable investment of the year, which cryptos were last year.
Yeah, I'm skeptical it'll get much lower either. It's probably reached its bottom. I think it could have gone lower, but the news cycle is tending to push things higher at the moment. So I think that's kind of taken over, and I think it's also the time of year that we are. I think this is just moving into the growth phase. Yeah,
this is when it happened last year. It went up in the late March and early April. It started its run up, and made consistent gains all through the summer, and then at the end of the year it went bonkers, and with the way that it activated and the way that it rose, at the end of the year, honestly, I believe that could happen, pretty much almost any time. So
yeah.
as far as for me, maybe I'm overly optimistic, which is kind of unusual for me, but I take a look at this, and again, I keep saying it's a brand new world-changing technology.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens with it, but I'm extraordinarily bullish on this for a time frame of 2 to 3 to 5 years. It's dramatic.
During that period of time, we're going to continue to see exponential growth. Well, I mean, we are experiencing exponential growth, and I expect it's going to continue for several more years.
Yeah.
Our final news article: major crypto investors request token oversight exemption in meeting with SEC. So we got top cryptocurrency investors Andreessen Horowitz and Union Square Ventures urged the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission to consider a cryptocurrency exemption at a private meeting, the Wall Street Journal reported on April 19th. Silicon Valley-based venture capital firms met with top officials of the SEC's Division of Corporation Finance, which regulates initial coin offerings, to argue against stringent cryptocurrency regulations that they claim would impair the development of the young, growing industry. According to the Wall Street Journal, the group of crypto investors argued that ICO tokens should not be considered as investments, but as products that can be used to access services of startup companies, which would allow startups to carry out token sales without observing formalities such as business reviews and financial reports. The group assured the SEC that ICO issuers would be held accountable in cases of fraud. The SEC has privately expressed skepticism to such a broad exemption and is more likely to opt for a limited exemption from oversight, wherein each investor would acquire investment limits and the purchased tokens would not be resold to third parties for profit. This is interesting for a few reasons. my first thought is the SEC can't really regulate all of this anyway. It's too much for them. There's new things cropping up every day. It's too much for them. They can't handle it. And so many of these companies are in so many different jurisdictions, well outside their control, that it's a nightmare for them. I reckon they're looking for any excuse, honestly, to simplify the regulation for their own sake, at least in the short term. So, yeah.
Yeah, as far as for my point of view on this particular thing, I kind of wonder how, reading their definitions, one of the things that I recall was the definition of of a security is a financial instrument that I'd have to have the definition up on this, but it goes something to the effect, as I recall, of security is a financial instrument of some form that has its value goes up and down based on the profitability of the company. And I don't know of a single cryptocurrency or a single cryptocurrency token that has that aspect tied into it, where the token has value based on,
I think it's not the profitability. I think it's the success of the company.
And
I think that's the key difference. I think that's what it actually is.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that with the profitability of the company and such, I guess if they're issuing shares of stock, if the company is issuing shares of stock that give the person a right to go and vote their wishes towards the operation of the company, which a lot of stocks do, depending on, like for Berkshire Hathaway they actually have votes that are taken account on by the board, by the board, and that's not going to be the way things work with any crypto, as I understand it. So I'd be interested to find out if there are any cryptos where you can have a proxy vote from the owners of the crypto coins to go and control how this particular event is handled by the company. I don't know of any that allow that.
I think the SEC looks at it in the sense of, well, at least they say they do. I think there's so much politics involved in these organizations, so that's first and foremost. And secondly, they're happy to bend over for the powerful corporations. Anybody who's willing to rub them the right way will get a gold pass. But I think what they say really here is that if we can't allow the price to be based upon the success of the company, because then people will come in and they'll pump things by promoting the company as being a great company and they're really successful and blah blah blah, and it becomes based upon the valuation. It can be manipulated in that way, as opposed to, say for example, I've been thinking a little bit about doing an ICO for a few different things, so possibly, and just experimenting with the idea. And I've got a little skincare business where we make and sell skincare products, and I thought, well, how can we avoid these kind of attaching the issuance of a token to the company's success? And well, if we actually make the token like a coupon, so you can actually use the token to purchase products at a discount, then it's actually just tied to a product price. It's not actually tied, whether we become a multi-billion-dollar company or not, the token value maintains at the value of the product, not the success of the company. So in that sense, I can see it being a different thing, if you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and that's something that, I think that one of the hallmarks of new legislation is I would think that it's either very, very narrow in scope or it's extraordinarily broad. And, trying to go and get a handle on this, because crypto went, just berserk last year, for lack of a better phrase. It went berserk last year and they weren't expecting it. And
No.
when they see the amount of money that is flowing through the cryptos, the cryptoverse, when they see the amount of money that's in the market cap, it's like, okay, this is at $1 trillion. That's no small, small
Yeah.
amount of money if it had gotten up that high, that is.
Well,
But,
even beyond that, from what I've heard, and this is I can't verify this, but I've heard that there was actually more money raised in IPOs last year than were raised in ICOs, and I thought it was like a significant fraction, but I've heard actually that the ICO, sorry man, I've gotten that backwards, the ICO total capital raised exceeded the IPO total capital raised last year.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
And if that's the case, I mean, it's no wonder that they're pulling their hair out, because they got to see the writings on the wall here. And plus, even if they don't like it, all the younger investors are going there, and so the older ones who thought they were all well established with their systems that they had in place are now pulling their hair out and admitting that to themselves even that they can't keep going down this track, because people are going to crypto. They're just going there, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. They can slow it down, and I think they've been trying to do that, but I think they realize the writing's on the wall now, and it's game over for the old financial system.
Yeah, it's just the way that I keep saying it, and I'm a broken record. I keep saying it. It's a world-changing technology, and it's only a matter of the rate of adoption. And considering how fast some of the previous world-changing technologies were adopted, you could see a complete sea change in as little as 3 to 5 years. And it happened with personal computers, it happened with cell phones, it happened with the internet, it happened, in such, an amazing speed that, 3 to 5 years from now, it's going to be a completely different story. Everybody will have heard of cryptocurrencies, and I think we'll have seen the hockey stick by that point. Where the adoption rate starts becoming significant. And granted, it may not, I don't think it'll ever hit 100%, just the same way that cell phone saturation hasn't hit 100%, internet saturation hasn't hit 100%, computer saturation hasn't hit 100%, but it's crested at a dramatic percentage to where it's essentially ubiquitous. And when that happens with cryptos, anybody who has invested early, the early adopters in a brand new technology like this, they always make out like bandits. Their investments are highly, highly rewarded because they're highly, highly risky. According to many, financial advisors, cryptos are so volatile that I don't recommend going into them. And it's that volatility that pays off if the investment ends up being sound, and if the more you learn about cryptos, the more sound you see it as being. So
yeah, well, volatility is part of life. I'm not worried about that, especially as a hodler.
Yep.
All right, well,
cool.
Our last thing for the week is the MAIDSAFE development update. Now, I would start out by saying it's an unusual week, but that's what they start out on the development update, so I'm just going to read what they've got to say. It's a slightly unusual week, this one. The entire global MAIDSAFE team have been traveling from their bases around the world to join us here at the headquarters in Ayr, Scotland for a few days. It's the first time we've all been together in the same place, and we've got a packed agenda ahead of us, not least of which is SAFE DevCon 2018 on Monday, the 23rd of April. We can't wait for SAFE DevCon 2018 and hope that we'll see many of you either in person or online during the day. On the build-up to the day, we've created a DevCon forum post with details of the agenda and the live stream. We'll keep that post updated throughout so you can follow what's going on via the forum if you've been unable to get a ticket. Given all the travel, the fact that you'll be hearing from us all on Monday, and the reality that we've been consumed with preparations for SAFE DevCon 2018 this week, we are not going to make the usual dev update this week. One final thing to draw your attention, though, Jim Collinson has joined us this week as a user interface, user experience designer, and written a great piece for his introductory blog. You can check that out on Medium, medium.com. There's a link there. And give him a welcome clap or two if you like. See you all on Monday. So, just going to go over to their DevCon forum post here. As announced back in February, it's the first developer conference that we've ever run in Europe and takes place on Monday, the 23rd of April. The full MaidSafe Global team will be at the event, and the day will be filled with updates covering every aspect of the world's first autonomous data and communications network. If you weren't able to make it along, please join us online. We'll be live streaming the full event on our YouTube channel. I will hopefully be there myself. Hopefully you'll be there too, Mike. The best idea is to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you'll know when we go live. You can ask questions of the speakers during the day. We'll be monitoring social media, including the forum, Twitter, and YouTube comments, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. And for those who can't watch the live stream, we'll be releasing videos of the day probably a few weeks after the event. The hashtag for the day will be SafeDevCon18. We'll edit this post to embed the video stream in a couple of days, but in the meantime, you can check out the agenda for the day below. So I've got Doug Campbell first doing an introduction, then David Irvine and Viv Rajkumar, and then later on we've got Krishna Kumar, and then Spandan Sharma. Further on down, Nikita Salyar, not me pronouncing their names very well, Gabrielle Viganotti, and then in the afternoon we've got Nick Lambert and Sarah Pentland, and then there's looks like some community talks going on through the rest of the day with closing remarks by Doug Campbell again. So that's going to be a really exciting day. I'm very sad that I don't have the wherewithal to fly out there and take part, but maybe next year, who knows? Yeah, I hope this becomes a regular yearly event. It could be a lot of fun. I will certainly be on the live stream, so look out for me there if any of you are going to be online. Any last thoughts, Mike?
It could be an interesting thing. Get to practice your Highlander accent every so often. Every year. I can't do it justice at the moment. I haven't listened to Sean Connery and the other Scottish notables regular enough to be able to go and do a passable Scottish accent. I'd have to live there for a little bit. Give me 6 months in any location, I'll talk like a native.
I'm David McIrvin of the Clan McIrvin, and I'm immortal. Gonna die.
Not quite yet, but hey,
no, I'm horrible.
When to be able to upload yourself. When you can upload yourself, then you can have your digital self say that in the proper accent.
Yeah. All right. That's all we have for today, folks. I'd like to thank both our viewers and my co-host for joining me today. We hope you found this episode informative and helpful. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share our video with others. Tune in next week for another interesting episode. And smash that bell button.
Ring the bell.
All right. Bye.